digital PR for AI visibility? Is it all it's cracked up to be?
All right, so everyone is saying digital PR is one of the best things you can do for AI visibility. Our background is in digital PR, so this is like the first
Music to our ears.
This has been our interest. Why we got interested in this in the first place is because people kept coming to us and saying like, it was like why are you wanting to do digital PR? And it went from it started changing from SEO to AI visibility, and so that's really what kickstarted our deep dives into how does AI visibility work. So everyone says that, but when you actually run these prompts, is it the case? Is it actually influencing the answer? And now this is very nuanced. It's not just a flat yes or no. But I want to say that when we run prompts, we're doing for clients, and we're doing like the bottom of the funnel, who's being recommended in your space kind of content. Digital PR doesn't really have a direct impact on that specific part if you're looking at the sources, like where it's actually going to find that information. If you said something like, if you search something like best med spa in Miami for facial balancing, you're not going to see a mention from Healthline for a doctor, or in Forbes, or you're not going to see that kind of thing. You won't see PR content. You're going to see review profiles, listicles. It's going to be that kind of content that has shaped that answer. So today we're going to talk about, is PR actually important for AI visibility? And if so, how does it shape it? Now, since we are doing this and our background is in PR, you can assume that we have figured this out. We have gone deep down this rabbit hole, right? So there are a few ways that we can say that PR does shape the recommendations from AI. So I've just said it's not likely to be directly from, you ask it something, who should I choose for this service? And it goes out and researches and looks through the press to find who's being quoted. That's not how it works.
And that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Because that would be like a weird sort of, if Apple's been talked about in the press, but then you go and ask like, what are the best like in-ear headphones for like running, it's not going to look at where that how Apple.
That's it exactly. It doesn't answer the query. If Forbes happened to publish like, who is the best med spa for this, like it'd be a weird thing for them to publish, then perhaps it could, but you're very unlikely to get that coverage from a PR campaign. Okay, and then you will see these typical like PR targets in the sources, but it'll be like a Forbes listicle. And again, not the kind of thing you're going to score through PR. Okay, now the second kind of search that could lead to someone choosing a provider from ChatGPT or any other AI model is informational searches, where they are asking questions around solving a problem, picking a procedure, picking a strategy, something like that. Okay, so let's say you are saying, so we're working on one right now about non-qualified loans, non-QM loans, right? So if you are asking, I've actually gone through this process, so this one's dear to my heart. As someone who's self-employed, it can be really hard to get a mortgage in the U.S. Like you have this incentive to write everything possible off, which is within the law, nothing shady there. But you're writing everything
just
off.
Qualify that.
Yeah, right. But when you then go to get a mortgage, you've written so many things off that it looks like your income is a lot lower. So,
do you know, I was just randomly thinking about this today, actually, with like travel trips and expenses that you might do for a company. It's like 100% that you write that off. But if you were approaching that sort of period where you were looking to mortgage or remortgage and you want your income to be as high as possible, for that sort of like 12-month period leading up to it, it's actually a disadvantage to be writing stuff off. It's like a weird place to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to plan around that. And I had to do that. I had to have 1 year where I wrote less things off just to make it a bit easier. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of research around that, right? Now, let's say you're going down that rabbit hole. You're self-employed. You're trying to figure out, how do I get a mortgage? You learn about these different mortgages, the bank statement loans, the loans for 1099, and you're asking, how does it work? Can I do this? Can I do that? And this is where PR content can really come into play. So I'm not necessarily talking about expert commentary. I'm talking more about like a press interview. So let's say you are a lender and you've been featured, you've done an interview on CNBC or some other big publication on how that particular loan product works, what to look for, etc. That is the kind of content that can get pulled in when someone is doing the research in ChatGPT. Then they see you, and that could lead to them going to work with you. Okay, so that's great, right? You can see how that could work, but you could also see like anytime you take something that's local, now we have to think like someone could be searching from New York. They're finding content pulled from someone from Austin, Texas. They're not going to go with that provider, right? They're not going to fly across the country unless it's some sort of remote service. But there's another benefit to that. As these models use that information, you are building up your authority. And this works the exact same way in Google. So Google's Gemini and the AI mode rely on the knowledge graph. And here, this is actually beneficial beyond just the traditional PR where you're getting interviews and those kind of things. This is where actually expert commentary, just being quoted by a trustworthy news organization, can ultimately influence the AI models. So as Google goes out to build the knowledge graphs, right? Like I won't get into a detailed explanation of how the knowledge graph works, but press mentions help the knowledge graph and Google figure out what you're about. So what services do you offer? What are you associated with? So that shapes the knowledge graph, and that directly impacts who can get recommended when you're doing searches with Google AI mode or in Gemini. Now that same thing downstream affects the other AI models. As you start to become known as this type of provider, that's when those you start to show up and be recommended when people are doing those bottom of the funnel. So you focus on PR. You're not going to directly show up in the bottom of the funnel. Who should I go with for X? But downstream, that is going to come into play.
And I suppose what's also really important is that will shape how you're being known. If there is so a lot of people in our industry sort of shifted from SEO to like new spaces. But if you've been operating in like a single space for like the past half a decade, then that is what the models know you for. Whereas if you're sort of making a pivot, then you need to be able to influence be in control of your own narrative. And the best way to do that, and the most authoritative way to do that, is through earned media and digital PR.
Yes, 100%.